management menu does, but how about this power management menu? Well, this basically gives you a set of abilities to do over and above what the importer may have picked up on when it was configuring your character, when it was generating your macros, and some extra situations in the game which may not be covered by some of the other areas of the framework. So let's start with choose macro. That's pretty simple. This, as its name suggests, lets you choose a macro from a library token. So we'll go choose macro and just set the stage for you here. Let's say, for example, the party cleric has whammied one of these skeletons to give them a defense penalty to reflex. He has a -2 to reflex. So Vanny says, hey, well, since that guy's reflex is down, maybe I should use a versus reflex attack power to go after him. So let's look on live::Vanny, say okay, and look for versus reflex. These here are all prefabricated search terms, and you can even enter your own search terms. So it'll go through all the labels and text of the macros on live::Vanny, and it finds two: chromatic orb and lightning strike. So he says, okay, I'll do a lightning strike. And it asks us if we want to run that. We'll say no because we've already run lightning strike. And if we said yes, it would give us the option of doing a quick button for that in case we don't want to do choose macro each time. The next one is create damage link, and this is a little complicated to explain. Let's say blue says to red, hey, you can share your damage with me. Red says, ooh, that's cool. I don't want to take all the damage when I get hit. So we're going to OSP red with blue, and we're going to go down to blue's macros, Bony Guy Blue, and we're going to say create damage link. Say okay, and we're going to choose half. You can do full, but this is a little more interesting if we do half. And it's shared to the duration end of his turn. Say okay, and we'll leave that conditions to prompt. We'll see that come into play. Register on Bony Guy Red, sure. And we do have effect registration enabled. Prompt target not found. And it's Bony Guy Blue or Vanny it's asking. Vanny's out of the picture right now. So it's asking us, well, on the battlefield, who are you linking with, Mr. Red? And Red says, I'm linking with Blue. Says okay. And we have that effect get registered on him, as we can see in the chat. Let's actually try this out. We'll click on Red alone. And we'll do adjust HP. And let's say he takes 6 points of damage. Say okay. Look at that. In the chat, he did not take 6 points of damage. Sure, Bony Guy Red took 3 points, but Bony Guy Blue also took 3 points. He took the other 3. So they are linked. But wait a second, though. What happens if Blue takes damage? Let's try that. 6 points. See here. He took 6 points of damage. Why? They're linked. Why did Blue take full damage? The reason why is Red has the effect on him. So we will do OSP from the MPB to Red, and we'll do show effect. And we will look at the second one here. Damage link versus Bony Guy Blue. So this tells us, because it's registered on Red, he's linking with Blue. Blue is not linking back with him. It is not bidirectional. See how that works? And it's not going to last forever. It's just going to last duration end. And that's it. That's the link. And it goes one way like that. Red will share with Blue his damage. And of course, we won't go through it, but create healing link is the opposite, obviously. Does the exact opposite. Create effect, we've done plenty of that, but it bears repetition because it's so important. We'll say okay. And we will say, let's do something nasty like dominated. Say okay. And again, remember back in the Frankenstein's lab video where we said understanding effect registration? We should know how to fill out all these by now. So if it's a range within 10, let's say, and we'll make it save ends, sure, and leave the link as it is. And we won't generate a removal pointer, that's fine. And we'll go OK. And we don't want to do allies, we want to do enemies. One creature, say OK. And look at that. Vanny's the only enemy, so it puts that on him. So, same thing. If we find, hey, wait a second, my power is supposed to prone a guy, and it didn't prone the guy, then you could have selected prone at the beginning and cast it on him. That's how that works. Go to the next one. Create system effect. Let's see what's under this menu. Now we are selected on Bony Guy Red. See the white around him? So we can add framework features. These are pre-canned effects. For example, we can inhibit healing on him. Say OK. A create inhibit healing effect form pops up. And we can leave the mod at 0 because it's the feature that we want. It doesn't really make sense to inhibit 5 points of healing or whatever. That's called vulnerability. So, well, after a fashion anyway. So range 0, of course, because we just want to put it on him. And sure, until the end of his turn. Next turn, I should say. And 0, 0, include self. Say OK. Now he has the inhibit healing effect on him. So what happens? He has 42 hit points right now. Let's try to heal him. Adjust HP, and we'll go -2. Say OK. Real hit points. Uh-oh. Warning, healing impaired. So what does he have? Look at that. In the stat sheet, he still has 42 hit points on the second line there. So no go on the healing for him. So that's, and you can time that too. You can say, save ends if you wanted to. So that's how that works. Next, we have mark. Now, these are context sensitive. If the skeleton was not a marker, we wouldn't see these. So if we go to Vanny, we won't see mark and mark closest. So let's give it a try. Mark closest. He gets marked. We get the message at the top of the screen in the overlay. And we see that. We hover over, marked by Bony Guy Red. Just in case your power didn't mark, doesn't have the mark call in it. Mark removal. Just as easy. Say OK. Say, oh, no, I didn't mean to mark you. And there it goes. It's been removed, as we see in the chat. All right, recover powers. We actually won't talk about Pommel Test. How should I describe this? This is a way to really exhaust a power by running it multiple times and seeing how it stacks up in the hit to miss ratio. It will automatically go through and keep running the power, like that lightning strike. Say we talked about that, and there's only one other guy on the battlefield, Vanny. It'll automatically select him and keep running lightning strike against him, like 5 times or something like that. And it'll come back and it'll say, okay, out of the 5 times, you hit 3 times. And that can gauge how tokens stack up against each other. I personally don't use it because I don't write my own adventures, at least not yet. My brother is, so I should probably tell him about that. We're going through an adventure of his right now. He's the DM. And we'll go on. Recover powers, that's pretty obvious. It's easier to say expend powers first. Vanny has some that we can expend. Say OK. An encounter, let's say second chance. Let's just say we did second chance manually and the DM says, okay, but I don't want you to use it later in this encounter, so why don't you expend that, mark it as used, and we'll go okay, and it expends it. The used effect has been registered on Vanny, so the run power macro knows to not give him that option when he is running it. Let's actually see if it's still in his immediate. No, it's not. See, it's gone. So it's smart enough to take it out of the tooltip. But what if we get a second chance? We can actually recover that. Recover powers. This is good for wizards getting stuff back out of their spell books and stuff like that. So recover powers. It automatically recovers because it's smart enough to know, well, you only have one that's expended and you're running recover powers, so, well, that one that has been expended must be the one you want back. So it actually grabs that back for you. And while we're on the subject, let's actually go back to the website here where we have talked about all this stuff. There it is, recover and expended powers. But you can also do spellbook operations. That's actually done automatically for wizards. Neither of these guys are wizards, so that's why we don't have the spellbook option there, or the spellbook list. But yeah, give that a read if you want to know more about that. But that's about it. Let's just double check to make sure. Yeah, there's striker wrapper. Let's not go into trigger definitions. That is beyond the scope of this video. Trigger definitions is an extremely powerful feature of the framework. It's very simple to explain, but it's very, very powerful. It's basically when a certain system event occurs, like say you score a critical or you get hit or you spend an action point or whatever, something that is commonly done in the game, you can attach a macro run to that. Like say you have overwhelming critical as a feat. You can define critical as the system event. You can attach overwhelming critical feat, that macro, to the critical event, and it will run either automatically or it will prompt you. I think we've seen that in the other videos, but that's basically what it does. Striker wrapper is, we know that, well, actually we have to have red selected for this. It's a way to get around the fact, hey, you can either be a marker or a striker, but not both. But we know that the skeletons are markers. They can't strike for extra damage, at least not in the conventional sense, according to the rules. So let's go power management, striker wrapper, say okay, and set strike state. And I don't know, let's be interesting. Let's say it's divine sanction. Say okay. That's actually a practical example. I do have a ardent that's or a paladin that's using that now, and he does 1d6 if he hits. We'll say okay, and it's asking, it's going through, remember we talked about choose macro at the top of the video? That's what's happening here behind the scenes. So it's not just us that can use choose macro. Other MPB functions use it as well. Now let's go to live skeleton warrior and choose an attack power. Longsword. Now, if we run this now, well, it's going to fail because there's nobody within range. That's fine. Say okay. And yeah, we get an error. Turns out what's going to happen is it's going to temporarily replace the bullseye mark with the state, the divine sanction state. If it hits a guy with divine sanction, it'll do the 1d6 and then it'll come back and it'll automatically go back to marking. And that's how power management works in the MPB. Thanks for watching.